Thailand's constitutional court has dismissed the Prime Minister, and we do have him giving a statement. This is Srettha Thavisin. He's been in office for less than a year. A court in Bangkok ruled that he'd violated the constitution by appointing a minister who'd served time in jail for contempt of court. The ruling threatens to destabilise Thailand's governing coalition and create further political uncertainty. Last week, the same court dissolved the main opposition Move Forward party and banned its former leader from politics for 10 years. So these are the live pictures that I just mentioned and we brought to you in our headlines as well. This is the Prime Minister, well now, very recently, former Prime Minister, removed from office by the court, giving a statement there. You can see we are keeping across that in the translation there, and we will bring you the details of it when he sits down and finishes talking. Let's get a bit of the background now, though. We can speak to our Southeast Asia correspondent, Jonathan Head, who's in Bangkok. Jonathan, just talk us through the events there in the last hour or so.
Well, this is a bit of a shock. I mean, nobody was too surprised when the court ruled against the Reformist Party Move Forward and dissolved it last week. This had long been expected. Move Forward was seen as a threat to the establishment, who the court nearly always represents in its verdicts. But Srettha Thavisin is a Prime Minister of a Conservative coalition government that formed after Move Forward was blocked from forming a government. Remember, it won the most seats in the election. Cobbled together this coalition, including a lot of the hardline Conservatives who'd been associated with the previous military governments. And everybody assumed this was a grand bargain, that aside from the Reformist Move Forward, all the other parties had agreed to come together and finally have a proper civilian government that could bring some stability to Thailand. The court has now just thrown all of that up into the air. It's not quite clear why it chose to rule this way. The technicality that, yes, the Prime Minister did appoint a lawyer to his office who has had a past criminal conviction. Technically speaking, you could say that's a reason that where a Prime Minister could be considered to have violated his ethical code. But Thailand's politics are not famous for ethics. I mean, we've had a minister in previous governments who'd served time for smuggling heroin in Australia. And so this is definitely a political decision. And it leaves all sorts of uncertainties over Thailand. It'll certainly affect economic confidence because the government had plans to try to revive the economy. It was struggling to do that. Now they've got to go back to Parliament and cobble together another government, another Prime Minister. It all just looks like perpetual political uncertainty and instability in Thailand.
And given that, Jonathan, we are just keeping an eye, just so you know as well, we have these live pictures of the statement being given now by the now former Prime Minister. We wait to see and hear exactly what those words will be. But what kind of reaction are we expecting from him and others across Thailand, even regional countries and neighbours as well?
Well, I think it'll worry neighbours and all of Thailand's partners that this country just cannot seem to get onto a stable political track. Remember, we've had these political upheavals, military coups, street protests, going back for more than 15 years now. Everybody had thought that the grand bargain we saw done politically to get a fully elected government into play, sort of get beyond the previous military government, that would finally settle things. It's clear it's not settled. Now, a lot of it probably has to do with Mr Srettha's political patron, the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, who, when this government was formed last year, came back after a decade in exile, basically under what was assumed to be a bargain whereby he didn't end up spending any time in prison. It seems as though he still has differences with his Conservative opponents. That's probably part of the reason this has happened. There's probably other shenanigans going on as well. We just don't quite know exactly what sort of pressures there were on the courts. But nobody in Thailand will be under any illusion. This will be seen as a political verdict. And once again, Thailand's top court, the Constitutional Court, it's the third time it's sacked a Prime Minister, it's dismissed governments, it's had multiple parties dissolved. This is now, the court now looks like one of the most powerful institutions in the country, along with the monarchy and the military, and it appears as though elected governments can come and go at the will of the judges in the court rather than at the will of the electorate. That's what many Thais will now believe.